Hi there, Ben here from Blooming Pretty Gardening Services. Today I'm going to have a quick chat to you about how and why to name your business a certain name. There's lots of different reasons behind why people name their businesses in a particular way. One of the ways that I thought about naming my business was, if ever I take on more than if I take on another team, or if I ever was to sell a business, or if I was to give it to my children, if they ever wanted to, which one of them possibly might, I don't know. They're only 4 and 5, so we'll see. Is if I called it something like Ben's Garden Maintenance or Freeman's Garden Maintenance, if I don't turn, well, the Freeman one isn't too bad because at least my lads can take it on when they want to, if they want to. But if you call it like Ben's Garden Maintenance, there are a lot of companies out there that have called their business their name. You just tie yourself to it, because you can't take on another van, and if you called Ben's Garden Maintenance and you take it on and you send somebody around and their name's Jay or Bertie, you can't. Somebody expects one person to come and do the garden if it's called something like that. Whereas I've gone for Blooming Pretty Gardening Services, so it doesn't matter who turns up. Some customers will prefer to have me, but it's set up so that if ever I did take on another crew, they don't expect me to turn up every time. It's more likely, if I wanted to sell a business, that I'm going to be able to sell it, because it's not, well, again, for the same reason, people aren't going to expect me that I can sell a business and I'm selling them the name that they can use, that somebody else can use. Whereas if I called it Ben's Garden Maintenance and I sell it to someone called Peter, then they're not going to, when they turn up to do the quote and Peter turns up and go, "Oh, where's Ben?" Well, it's just me who owns it, and you're not. So anyway, so yeah, you can call it all whatever you wanted. I chose Blooming Pretty Gardening Services because I wanted to be sort of all inclusive of like all aspects of gardening. You could call it what was the other company called? Like Cheshire, what's it called? Cheshire Gardening Contractors, or Crew Gardener. You know, like an area that you work in would be quite a good name for a business, because then if you wanted that you're telling people where you want to work, basically. So Crew Gardener, Crew and Nantwich Gardener, which is sort of my local sort of big towns, that are sort of fairly close together. I could have called it that, but there's another gardener close to me who's called himself Top Stripes, which, for what most people, well, for what I would be doing, it would be a fairly good name for me as well. Only it's already taken, because I like to put stripes in lawns and that. Somebody called their, I don't know whether it's just their YouTube channel or whether it's what they've called their gardening company called Hedge Barber, because they pretty much only deal with hedges, and they do a really good job. There's lots of gardeners who abbreviate their names. PW Gardening Services, SGM, which is Sam's Garden Maintenance. So there isn't a problem with it. It's just doesn't make it as easy if you were to either take on someone else or to sell your company. I feel that you're tying yourself to your business, whereas if you had a sort of overall name like Top Stripes, Blooming Pretty Gardening Services, something that you're not tied to the name of your business, you can sell it. You can take a step back if you've got more like 2 or 3 teams and you want to step back into the office and just do office work, or you want to go out and do another job, or you want to sort of expand your business, you can go and do the fine jobs where people really could do with seeing you as a person, but you don't have to be there because you're not tied to the name. Whereas someone with their name as part of the business is tied to that company in a way. So if it's called Pete's Garden Maintenance or Sam's Garden Maintenance, and Sam doesn't turn up to do the quotes, and doesn't turn up, if not all the time, just on occasions you don't see the person whose name's tied to the company there, it doesn't look as good for you. Whereas at the moment it's only me, but I could take on somebody else in another vehicle, or and they can turn up to do quotes, they can turn up to do the work, and nobody would really bat an eyelid at it because it's not my name. So I go, hi, I'm Ben from Blooming Pretty Gardening Services, but that could easily be, hi, I'm Frank from Blooming Pretty Gardening Services, or I'm Pete from Blooming Pretty Gardening Services. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not I'm not tied to go and do quotes or big jobs or yeah. So that's how I feel about how and what and why to name your company. It's personal choice more than anything, but how I felt about it was that if it was my name and gardening services, or my name lawn care, or because I know there's lots of companies out there who are, there's a Ben's Gardening Services, there's a Ben's Lawn Maintenance, there's loads of different companies that are all now tied to their company. I mean, somebody like me could buy it because it's my name, and there's quite a lot of Bens around, but it's not as easy if you wanted to sell your company. People aren't going to take it on. Like when I first set up a business 15 years ago or so, I called myself B&N Gardening because there was 2 of us. It was a partnership, and as Dave Ramsey always says, the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. It's just one of those things you can't There's always a hard worker and there's always a money one. So that was the first time, and I swore I'd never do it again. And lo and behold, like 13 years later, there I was going into partnership with someone else. Don't ask me why. I don't know. I wouldn't do it again. With a partnership, you have to both have the same work ethic and mindset. So B&N Gardening didn't really work because we were both workers. He was happy in a part-time job and just doing gardening on the side. I'd just come out of the army and needed the money, and I wanted to work. I couldn't get him to give me a day where we could both go and do jobs together, so we ended up doing jobs separately. So he'd have his regulars, I'd have my regulars. That's not a partnership. That's two companies working under the same name, or two people working under the same name. So although yes, it probably would have worked eventually if we'd have both been as interested, it just didn't work at the time, which it's just one of those things. The second time was the Cheshire Gardening Contractors. I think that's what we called ourselves. He wanted to go for it, and I was still working full time, and that put me working weekends extra. Now, he didn't seem to want to, the other chap didn't seem to want to he didn't seem to want to do the work on the weekends. He only wanted to do like big jobs, and he wasn't really interested in the actual maintenance side, which in a way I don't blame him, but that's the way I wanted to go. I wanted to be regular garden maintenance. So it's just one of those things you learn to live with it, and you learn to just get by with stuff. So that didn't last very long, because he wanted half of the money that we were taking in, but he didn't want a bank account, so all going in his. Basically, he didn't want to set up a business. He wanted pocket money, whereas I wanted, once he'd put the idea in my head, I wanted the business. I wanted to take it forward and do the work properly. So that's where I am. I've got about 25 to 30 clients, all under the Blooming Pretty Gardening Services. And there, it doesn't matter if I turn up or if I got a worker. It doesn't matter if they turn up. It's not my name, it's my business, if that makes any sense. So if somebody turns up to do the garden, as long as they're wearing my uniform or my logoed or my sort of branded vehicles, when I've got some, I've got magnetic signs on the car at the moment. I did have a van. It lasted me not very long before it died, and so I'll go back to the car and trailer for a bit. So yeah, I'm just ready at the moment. You can see the mower in the back there. That's my Hater 41. I've got a trailer on behind with my Hater 56 in. Just waiting for some of this ground frost and some of the sort of big hailstones that we've had overnight to clear themselves up and go. So I'm just having a cup of coffee in my Cobra mug, sitting in my Cobra jacket, and I was wearing my Cobra hat. even though I use Hater and Still stuff. I've got a quick question for anybody who watches this. Other than the obvious, would you mind subscribing and sort of liking the video, is what electric battery powered stuff would you use? I like the idea of the multi-tool system, and the two companies that I've been looking at, so well, 3 companies, only one of them does it. So I've been looking at Ego, which is the sort of brand that everybody's using. I've also been looking at a company called Cress and a company called Kramer. Now, Kramer stopped making their multi-tool system, which I'm a bit disappointed about. I like the multi-tool systems as being able to fit them in the back of the car a bit easier. So yeah, I'm a bit disappointed that they'd stopped making it. Crest at the moment, I don't think make like a multi-tool system, so that would be, I'd need a strimmer, a hedge cutter, long reach hedge cutter. It makes it more expensive for me if I was doing it that way. Whereas I like having the multi-tool systems, because the once you've already got the motor or engine, as it would be, like I use the Still KM ones. Once you've already got that engine or motor, you can add it in. The reason why I'm not going down the Still route is Still is just so expensive for what you get. You get as a comparison, I was working it out, and it's around about £900 for the Still Combi battery powered motor. In regard, it's sort of, in the other hand, it was just a bit over £900 to get a whole Ego combi system with the hedge cutter attachment, the pole pruner, the edger, the line trimmer, and the motor, with batteries, or with our battery and the charger. Now I think that's a better deal than the Still, and I think with the Still you're just paying for the brand. I do like Still as a brand. They're not, I don't know, they might be the best, they might be fairly good, but it's just Still. I'm not that bothered. But yeah, it's just one of those things. So yeah, if anybody's got any thoughts on that, could you leave me a comment down below? Can you hit the like button and the subscribe button? And then, yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.